Hello everyone, this is Staci Travisano, and today on Homeschool for the Soul, I'm here with Dr. Parkar Price, who's going to share some insights with us about how to gradually, in a healthy way, get back to this new normal, the season that we're about to go in, from the perspective of a doctor of physical therapy, which we're really excited about. So thank you, Dr. Price, for being with us today. Will you share with the friends a little bit about your credentials, like where you went to school, but then also what your specialty is? Are you okay?
Sure. As Stacy said, I'm a doctor of physical therapy. I work at Agape Physical Therapy in Glendora. I graduated from Azusa Pacific University in December, and I don't yet have a certified specialty, but my postdoctoral work will be in chronic pain solutions.
I'm so impressed. We were talking about this a bit ago, but oh my goodness, that's such an important field. So many people struggle with chronic pain, and similar to this season of stress and anxiety that we might be feeling or having on the inside, people can't see what's going on in our bodies. You are going to specialize in treating pain that takes away quality of life, and also something that when we're suffering, it can try to name it, but unless you're going through it, you can't see it, right? So how would you, if you're talking to somebody for the first time, how would you suggest, and from the lens of the chronic pain world, but then also thinking through like stress and anxiety, how would you help someone? What would you say? How would you ask? Sorry, I'm trying to think of the right way to say it. When you're asking someone, how can I help you? Not like, how can I help you like a customer service call, but how can we help you heal? How can we help you get to the next step? How would you go about that beginning process?
So the benefit of being where we are is that people come to me. And so they typically come to me with a slip of paper that already says more or less what hurts. And then I usually start by asking them what their story is. And there are typically some little flags that I listen for that can give me an indication if this is more of a chronic pain problem versus an acute injury problem. So the good news is that pain is always in the brain, no matter what. If it's acute, if it's chronic, it's never in the body. It's experienced in the body, but it's always from your brain. It is your brain's perception of a threat. So if your brain perceives a threat, then you are more likely to experience a painful experience. So the thing in the chronic pain world is lots of things can be perceived as threats, and they can all add together to increase that pain experience and keep it from shutting down. So we talk a lot about how the pain response is God-given to get you to attend to something, to attend to that threat. So you step on a Lego, which is everyone's worst pain, and you say, ow, and you hop off the Lego and you grab your foot and you typically squeeze it. And then you look at your foot and it's perfectly fine and you move on with your life, right? So your brain perceived a threat, you attended to the threat, the brain said threat is gone, and then you move on. People who experience chronic pain, the brain doesn't acknowledge that the threat has subsided, and so the experience continues.
Gosh, that's so sad for all of the people that wrestle through that with that all of the time. You and I talked about like that's just not quality of life, no matter what kind, how long, from what. Gosh, so important to hear and know that it is being perceived by your brain as
Yeah.
your brain is perceiving that as a threat, and that it
Yeah.
doesn't turn it off. My goodness gracious.
And it's highly complex in that manner. And so, like, as you mentioned, the stress and COVID, we saw a huge uptick in people's pain experiences, even if nothing had really changed as far as their tissues, their body. Because all the stress, the fear of the unknown, anxiety, decreased sleep quality because of the anxiety, decreased movement because everyone's home right now. All of those things is data to your brain, and that data gets synthesized and is more likely to be output as an increased pain experience. So you're not crazy. It's just your brain is trying to protect you, and it's trying too hard.
I like that. I like that. Okay, so now as and you mentioned some of us maybe have been moving a little bit less or not at all, which because none of us have been through anything like this ever, 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 the way that we've managed it is what we needed to do to get through this season. So, and I know that isn't going to be your posture anyway, in terms of like saying like, shame on you that you didn't move your body. But if you have not moved at all, or if you've moved moderately, and now you're going to try to get back to whatever this new season of normal is, what would you recommend, especially as you've seen maybe people heal from an injury or from a surgery in the past? When have you seen people make a good recovery because they not just followed the prescription of the doctor, but also went at the pace that they needed to for their body versus like they're so excited to get back that they just jump into it? Can you walk us
Yeah.
through that a little bit?
Yeah, we see, I mean, of course, I think everyone knows this kind of intrinsically. There's both extremes, and both can be delaying of recovery. So the one extreme of not doing enough. So I think people have probably heard before, use it or lose it, that concept. So that concept is true in your brain. It's true for your body too. So when you stop moving it and you stop using it, then the tolerance of your body to those activities goes down a little bit. And so I think a lot of times what we see, especially with like weekend warriors is what we call them. So people who 9 to 5 are sitting most of the day, and then they go out on the weekend and play flag football or soccer. And we all think that we're still 19 and can do that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And so, because we could do it before, what's changed? Nothing. So those things are just too much for those tissues to handle at that time. And so, again, pain is always a brain's perception of a threat. So if you move suddenly more than you were, even if there's no tissue damage, even if you haven't had a true acute injury, you can still have an experience of pain. So there's a concept of graded exposure. So basically, you just need to give your body enough time to adapt to the stresses that you're putting on it. So if your goal is to run a 5K or something like that, the solution is not to get up off your couch and go run a mile, even if a mile thinks like that's only part of it. You may want to start with walking and see how your body responds to that, and then you go from there incrementally. Because if you do too much too soon, then your brain's going to perceive a threat. And I think, the other side of that is some people have been moving more than they were before because they're home and restless, and there's lots of Pinterest inspiration and Instagram inspiration.
I love that. It's true. Learn something new. Yeah.
Yeah. You're in a pandemic, so do everything. It's the same concept there too. If you're suddenly home and now you want to paint everything, your shoulders might yell at you a little bit. My advice is
good. Yeah, that's really good.
My advice is first to not panic that you probably didn't actually hurt yourself doing that. Now, if it's a persistent kind of pain, it's not just soreness that comes down, give a physical therapist a call, and get that checked out by a professional. But just take a step back and build in a lot of rest breaks for your body so that your brain has time to say, okay, we're good. And you have time to check in with your body and say, you know what, maybe that's it for today.
I like that. One of the things that you and I had talked about earlier too was that in this season of COVID, you are able to take telehealth appointments, which you weren't able to do before. So I bring that up because people might be worried about either like you can't go to the doctor right now, or you shouldn't because every doctor's office is a place of germs, which it is, but also people are maybe not getting treated for things because they're worried about that. So can you just walk us through like really quickly that about what you said about insurance and telehealth, because that hasn't been a thing.
Yeah, so historically speaking, telehealth was only really available in rural areas where the specialists and the medical professionals were spread out really far. Since all of this has gone down, those policies have changed, and most insurances now cover telehealth appointments, meaning you can get on a video call with one of us and tell us what's going on. We'll ask you to do some things, watch how you're doing it, ask you a lot of questions, and give you some advice to deal with that. Yeah, did that answer your question?
Yeah, that was awesome. I just, again, like if people are afraid to go get treated, or they have an injury, whatever sports injury, or like you said, a home improvement project, and they're not sure, did I tweak something? Did I tear something? And then we're fearful and we don't want to go to urgent care, and knowing that we could make a telehealth appointment with a physical therapist is awesome, because that is going to be someone who can, like what you just did, walk us through, okay, what did you do? How did you do it? And this is probably what it is. Let's follow up in it.
Yeah, and actually I hadn't really thought about it the way you said it. So thanks. But I hadn't actually thought about it of even just doing a check-in is a really great idea, because I don't want people to be fearful to move. That's the worst thing that you can be, because then fear is threat, right? So I think that's really great advice, that if you are concerned about something, rather than stopping everything, your insurance probably covers it. You can call and verify that first, but getting on even a one-off appointment to have some reassurance or some advice on what to do is probably a really great idea. So good job, Staci.
Oh, I love that.
You're hired.
I was trying to think through when I've had conversations with people, and it doesn't have to be like just calls that we've gotten at the church. It can be an anecdotal conversation about, oh, I sliced my finger, so I just did this. Or if somebody fell in their yard, like off a ladder, and they were terrified to go to the ER, which I understand, but also, oh my goodness, if they really did hurt themselves, they could be looking at a future of chronic pain because they didn't get help. And so just knowing that, we know that the world that we're living in is so different, but knowing that it is different in a good way because of the telehealth perspective, and hearing from you that it is something that doctors are going to still get paid for, and the insurance isn't going to give you a hard time about it, are also things when we don't know, I know, but when we don't know the information, we can't act on it. And yes, everything is going to be a mess, and everyone's going to be whatever after this, but knowing that there are things in place for us to still get adequate care is huge. Okay, so I don't want to keep you for too long today, so appreciate again your time with us. What is the best advice you have had one of your mentors give you when you are going to not diagnose a patient, but kind of encourage a patient who is really in a tough spot? What is advice that you have been given, and what is something that a patient has said back to you when they followed your prescription? And not everybody's not perfect, but what was the advice that you were given, and what has been the result of someone who did take it at the right pace for their body for the time they needed? So that we can hear some wise words that you use somewhere. You don't use them every day, but something somebody said to you stood out. And then also, what have you seen maybe someone go from super less to hopeful because they did what you asked them to
That's a hard question. So let me make sure I understand it.
do.
So
Sorry. Okay.
what is advice that I have been given by a mentor
Mhm.
to help someone who maybe is really flared up with pain? Okay.
Yeah.
Um, I guess the best advice I've been given with someone who's got more of a chronic situation and is maybe in a heightened state uh, is to find the triggers. So what is causing today to be really
So
bad?
good.
So you've been dealing
So
with
good.
this pain for 20 years. Why is today so bad? What changed? And so I think that building that autonomy into individuals to take back control of their own life and realize that this experience is very real for you, but that doesn't mean it's totally out of your control. And giving that autonomy back to that person, I think, can be scary for people because historically, most people just restrict. Okay, if that hurts, don't do that. Okay, that hurts, don't do that. And now everything hurts. So what am I supposed to do? Nothing. And so really encouraging mindfulness and being able to partner with people in that is my favorite thing, because what's really cool is you're going to do my job for me. No, kidding. but really just like pointing out, okay, maybe you were triggered by something. If you've had a traumatic experience, say, I've had several people who've had like falls inside walk-in freezers, which is an interesting one. And so then cold is a very triggering thing for them because the original injury happened when it was cold. So something like that, and something that can be so simple of, you know what, your back is not suddenly worse, but it's really cold outside. And so your brain is on high alert because last time it was really cold, you got injured. And so this is getting long, I'm sorry.
No,
Okay.
that's so good, because I think we self-diagnose, or we think, oh, well, it's just this or it's just that. And some of us are going to come out of this feeling like, oh my gosh, everything is great. And we're going to have a hard day and it's not going to be what we expected. And
Yeah.
we're going to, we might hurt our knee trying to do something, or we might hurt our heart in a relationship with a friend, because there's a bunch of stuff right now on social media. Sorry, there's a really loud car next door. But also, there are polarizing comments happening on social media because when do you go out? What do you do? All of that. And then it's an election year. So we're going
I
to,
can't.
I know, but we're going to be in a season where we're going to be dealing with physical, but also mental and emotional pain and strain, not because of all, well, and there's a pandemic, right? And
Yeah,
I
it's
just
all of
think that
it. All of it is going to affect you.
you reminding us that there are triggers. Like, we all have triggers for all kinds of things,
Everything.
and reminding ourselves of that first, and then making sure we have community. We are all missing our community, but oh my gosh, how important is it to get on a phone call, get on a Zoom call, reach out to someone if you are straining, and when you start to move past this
Yeah,
season, reach out
absolutely.
and ask for help. And then share like one like success story, or one like highlight about someone who went from like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get better, to, oh my goodness, I have my life back.
I was just able to discharge a patient last week who had started, her initial injury was last July, and then I think she sought help in November-ish. So she was with a different physical therapist before she was with me. And she made a lot of progress and was back to modified duty, but still had to sit down a lot. And we were able to figure out what, and it was a physical trigger for her. It was something going on in her body that I was able to work on with her. But that one thing, just identifying the one thing, just like totally turned the page for her. And that was and is the reason I love my job, because it's so fun to really just apply anatomy and neurobiology. That's all I do is just, this is what it looks like. And then you're telling me your story and I get to play detective. And so, that was just the one thing holding her back. And then after that was addressed, we talked a lot about pain, kind of how we talked about today, to then put the ball back in her court. Okay, this is addressed now. The rest of this just needs to be you kind of doing therapy with yourself. Here's how this works. And I just asked her, do you feel ready? Do you feel like you can enter this next stage independently? And she said, I think I do. And that, people saying that out loud is,
it's gonna be so huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like so cool, so huge.
Yeah,
Oh,
like I'm gonna miss you so much, but I'm so happy for you.
but I did what I needed to so that you can then, right? Oh my gosh, that is the coolest. I love that.
And she did what she needed to, so she could. And that's the tricky part is I'm not going to fix you. I'm gonna partner with you on a journey, and the journey's probably not gonna look like this. It's probably gonna look like this. Yeah. But we'll get there, and you can have freedom again, and it's gonna require patience, grace with yourself. If I can give advice to anyone listening out there, especially if you've been through this process and have been frustrated, be nice to yourself. We're not judging you. And like, we're here to partner with you in it, but it does require both parties, like any relationship, to do their parts. And when it works, man, it's fun.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you again so much for spending time with us, for sharing your wisdom and your expertise. And gosh, that just about the brain and pain and triggers is so huge. And I have so many takeaways from today. So thank you so much again for your time. Thank you all for spending a couple minutes with us today. We hope that this has been helpful for you. You can reach us at the church anytime. You can email info@reallife.la, and we'd love to answer any prayers, any needs that you have. Thank you again for your time today. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Bye.